the notification just saying that we've started recording. So to formally do it, these are all very welcome to this afternoon's session. I'd like to thank Maria Whelan for joining us and yourselves. It's great for us as part of Volunteer Week to be able to, I suppose, offer different sessions over the different days. And today's one, I suppose, is around wellness and well-being and taking care of yourself, which is something that's very important for us all to do. And I suppose the daily challenges that we face in our volunteer work and in our work and all of the stresses that go with life outside of this COVID crack, never mind as part of it. So look, it's great for us to have that. We've had 3 other sessions this week, and I know some of you have been with us on the other sessions as well. We had a session on Monday around social media for community groups and charity shops. We did stuff around an environmental issue around plastic use on Tuesday. We had a thing around festivals and events on Wednesday, and somebody else in. And today we're topping it off with the best session of all, Maria, coming in to talk to us about wellness and dealing with the stresses of COVID. So look, it's now 1 o'clock. So if it's okay, Maria, we'll hand over to yourself. So it's up to yourselves. You can leave your camera on, off, whatever it is that suits yourself. If you have any questions as you go, there's a chat button. If you just press the chat button, you can send the question through, and myself and Eamon will kind of moderate and put the questions to Maria as the session is going on, whatever kind of natural break comes. If we lose you, if you lose the connection, if somebody cuts through a broadband cable in Letterkenny here or something, just click the link again and we'll let everybody back in and restart as we go. So, just, I suppose, hopefully we'll have a nice, relaxing, quiet hour led by Maria, and we'll take it from there. Okay, Maria, thank you.
Okay, thank you, John and Eamon and the team at the Donegal Volunteer Centre. I'm delighted to do this presentation as part of the Donegal Volunteer Week, and a very, very warm welcome to you all. So now, as John said, just sit back and relax. I'm actually in John's office at the moment. I had a problem with the internet at home, so I've come down here to do the presentation. So I'm delighted to be here. So let's have a look and see what we're going to do here today. I'm just going to share the screen with you. Okay, well-being in COVID-19 times, the Donegal Volunteer Week. Okay, seems to be a little bit stuck there. Would we see this? Let's try the other one. The joys of technology. Let me see if this one works. Okay. Okay, there we go, bingo. Okay, so the session outline, we have 3 topics: thinking, overthinking, dealing with isolation, self-care, body and mind, and then we'll end with a mindfulness, a body scan practice at the end. So that'll get you nice and relaxed before you get back to work again. And then we'll have a question and answer session at the end. If you feel like, as John said, if you want to ask some questions, feel free to do so. And we'll see what we can do, how I can answer them at the end. So a bit about me. I'm a parent, partner. As you can see, I have my dog there with me. Her name is Bailey, and she's quite rotten and adorable, and we love her dearly. I'm a cognitive behaviour therapist, facilitator and counsellor. And we'll just go on now to the first topic. So thinking and overthinking. So what's that about? So that's what we have going through our minds every day, up to 60,000 thoughts a day. There's quite a lot of thoughts there. So thinking, when you think about thinking, it does serve as well. We need to be able to think and to maintain our moral compass, be able to analyze, problem solve, make decisions about the future, to remember the good times, that is important. We do need to think. But overthinking becomes a problem when it causes anxiety and stress. And I know for myself, I did have a period there during the lockdown where I was overthinking a lot, and it was associated with anxiety. I was quite worried and anxious. So it's part of being human, and we all are inclined to do that sometimes. So the nature of thinking and overthinking, 80% of our thoughts tend to have some negative content. That can be a bit of relief for some people to hear because, some people might believe, oh, you know what, I'm the only one that's thinking negatively, or I'm the only one that has that negative outlook. When in fact, we all have negative thoughts and feelings at times, and that's human. So the wild bear, that's not something that I'd like to see either during the day or the night. I wouldn't mind going to a zoo now and seeing that at a distance, but I would not like to meet it face on. So what has anxiety got to do with the wild bear? Well, anxiety is very protective and is part of our genetic makeup. We have this fight and flight and an actual freeze system that we have that gets our bodies ready for threat. So if I met a wild bear, my body needs to get psyched up and ready to run from it. I certainly would not be fighting that bear. So, our ancestors, cavemen, were, there's predators in the environment, and they needed to be alert to be able to protect themselves and to be able to respond. So if they were too relaxed, they wouldn't be able to protect themselves or be able to escape from the danger. So what happens when we feel threat? So it's almost like a vicious cycle. Something happens in the environment, an event or a situation. And then we usually have a thought in relation to that and a feeling. It could be something to do with something that's, a little bit stressful. And this in turn creates tension in the body, sweating, the heart rate goes up. It feels sometimes as if we're getting ready to fight that wild bear. It does feel really, really dangerous. And then the brain, we mustn't forget about the brain. There's the amygdala, which is that is a protective part of the brain as well, and it detects the fear and all the other emotions. That's the survival part of the brain, the amygdala, and it's an important one. So a little bit of stress is okay, but if it goes on for too long, it's not good for our overall well-being. I did feel a little bit tense, a bit of tension coming here today, and I felt like my hands were getting a little bit sweaty. I was getting, oh God, I wonder how many people will be here, and how is it going to go, and what if the internet goes off, or and I did. My body was responding to that. I still feel like a little bit sweaty, but I'm in control of it. But I think if the stress goes on for too long, it's a little bit like this elastic band here. A little bit is okay. It helps us to perform. If we have to go for an interview, then a little bit of anxiety is okay because we need a little bit of adrenaline because we don't want to be completely flat. But if this gets stretched too far for too long, then something has to give. But the good news is that we can do something about this, and we can learn to respond differently to stress. I mean, the learning, it's so empowering to think that we can actually learn to respond differently to stress. And when we change our thinking in relation to the stress, it affects all the other areas in the system as well. So the body becomes more relaxed and our feelings become more relaxed. The levels of stress hormones in the body, like the adrenaline and cortisol, it all becomes reduced. And that's good. That's good for our body. So this is the interesting one. This is the picture of the brain. And the one that I talked about before, the amygdala, it's in the center there where the monkey is. It's the primitive survival part of the brain. And then the interesting one there at the front, where the owl is sitting, and there's very big glasses on there. So that's the part where we think and we problem solve, and we regulate our emotions, and we regulate what is happening in the environment. And then, as you see as well, the fight, flight, and freeze response survival system there. And then the hippocampus there on the right with the elephant there, that's where we store all our memories. So what we do is when we're stressed for too long and there's a lot of anxiety, we're really in that survival brain called the amygdala. And we need to get out of it because if we're in it for too long, That's where the body feels the tension, and maybe we can't sleep, and and sometimes if it goes on for too long, we can our mood can start getting low. So we need to get out of there. It's fine for survival. We need it if something really dangerous is happening. Then we need to be in that part of the brain to survive. But mostly we need to be where the owl is and where those big glasses are, because we need to be able to evaluate soundly what's happening around us. We need to find out, is it true that we're in danger? We need to gather information and facts before we make any kind of decision. So that's an interesting one. So again, we bypass, when we view the event as threatening, we bypass it's called the prefrontal cortex. It's in here, this part of the brain here. This is the wise mind. This is the owl wise mind thinking. But sometimes we just go straight into that other part of the brain, the emotional brain. And if we stay in it for too long, that's where we can get the symptoms. So how do we stop this unhelpful cycle? And the good news is that we can stop this unhelpful cycle. So this is a helpful strategy called the 3 C's. And this is, if you think about it as being the wise owl mind, this is where the big glasses come on, okay? So we need to catch it, check it, and change it. So first of all, we need to catch the thought, and we need to put the glasses on, get the wise mind going in here into this part of the brain. We need to ask ourselves, what is going on in our mind? Then we need to check the thought, and we need to question them. Are the thoughts, are they facts, or are they just opinions? And thoughts are not necessarily facts. They really aren't. Some of them are, but when we're really in that kind of amygdala brain, they're not necessarily facts. And a thought is only a thought. And then change your thoughts and replace them with more balanced, helpful thoughts. So that was the 3 C's there. So let's look at an example. And this can happen to any of us. You're walking down the street, you see your neighbor, you look across to say hello, and she doesn't acknowledge you. She or he doesn't acknowledge you. So if you're already feeling a bit stressed and anxious and a little bit down, you might view this as being threatening. You might go into the amygdala, back part of that brain there, and you might sort of see this as a threat. And you won't be connecting with this part here, the wise mind with the glasses on. It'll be all back in here, and it'll be feeling really uncomfortable. So I suppose that's when you need to check, do the 3, connect with the owl, the wise mind of the brain, and check your thoughts. Just question the validity of your thinking. What are the chances that your neighbor ignored you on purpose? And do you know it for a fact that she ignored you on purpose? What would you say to a friend if they came to you and said, listen, I was walking down the town there and my neighbor ignored me? What would you say to her? Are you jumping to conclusions without knowing the facts? And then you could ask yourself, how important is this in the scale of things? There's so much going around us at the moment. Is this so important? And then change it. So we've checked it, catch it, check it, and now we're changing it to a more alternative and balanced thought. So for example, changing the thought from, my neighbor ignored me, I must have done something wrong, she doesn't like me, and I feel rejected. And changing that thought to, my neighbor always said hello to me before. Maybe she's having a bad day. Maybe something has happened. She seemed very distracted. So how would you feel now if you flip that around to being about, maybe not all about yourself, but about maybe, there's something that might be going on for this person. She might be struggling. So things like that really help to flip it. Basically flip that thought and get those owl glasses back on and get into this part of the brain. So thinking styles, I'm just going to show you this one. I'll give you a handout on this one as well afterwards. On helpful thinking styles. These are ones as well that can get us stuck. Okay, so we can all have those, and especially when we're in the amygdala brain, We can have the mental filter, the gloomy dark specks where we're only just seeing the negatives. We can make judgments about ourselves, judging ourselves harshly. I shouldn't have said this, or I should have said that, or that person should not be saying that to me, or that person should never ignore me, or we can have all those kind of unhelpful thoughts. And then mind reading. Mind reading is a common one. And I'm thinking, the person who was ignored by the neighbour was certainly doing a major amount of mind reading there. Because really, she didn't know. She didn't know what was going on with the neighbour. So she was assuming, she was making assumptions. And when we're anxious, we're inclined to make a lot of assumptions. Then emotional reasoning. I feel bad, so it must be bad. I feel anxious, so I must be in danger. So it's like that feeling when you're sort of really hyped up and the phone rings and it's like, oh my God, I'm expecting the worst. Oh my God, I hope this is not going to be a disaster. And it turns out that it's a friend ringing to say hello. So that emotional system is fired up all the time and expecting the worst. Then prediction, believing we know what's going to happen in the future, and that's just completely unrealistic because we can't. We just can't do that. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. And then we have the mountains and molehills, and we have the compare and despair. That's one. He's got a bigger car than I have. She's skinnier than I am. And, that really gets us into despair because really, then we start feeling bad about ourselves. Like we don't feel like we're not measuring up, and that's not a good one to get into. Facebook and Instagram, all these gorgeous people having a wonderful life. And it doesn't make you feel great. But the reality is that we don't know what's going on behind the doors in their lives either. It might all be looking great, but it may not be feeling so great for them. So we just don't know. But best to stay off Facebook when you're feeling a bit low, and Instagram, because if you're feeling a bit depressed or low, it's not going to make you feel great. So a little bit of digital detox is good sometimes. Catastrophizing, that's one that we're all in at the moment, I suppose, with the COVID, because it is tough. It is really hard. We're doing the what ifs. What if we get locked down again? Or what if this, or what if that? And it is tough. And we do catastrophize. But, it does affect our body when we do that too much. We do start getting into that kind of survival amygdala brain again, and we stay in it for too long. That's when the mood goes down. And then we have the critical self, of course, putting ourselves down, the black and white thinking, believing that, everything has to be 100% perfect or it's no good. And then again, shoulds and musts and the memories. So there'll be a handout. We'll give you a handout on that as well. And it's a good one to look at. So let's get back to this one again. So I highlighted the one mind reading and making assumptions for the person who saw the neighbour and the neighbour ignored them. So that person was mind reading because they really, didn't know what was going on for that neighbour. That neighbour could have had awful news that day and just was completely in a zone of their own. So also when we're faced with a threat such as COVID-19, we did have, it was an awful time for us really, because all of a sudden in March we were told, right, lockdown. We've no roadmap. There was nobody told us how we were meant to feel. All we knew is we had to stay indoors. It was really, really tough for a lot of people, and some people were quite traumatized by it. And when we feel that, it feels like, that we're not in control. We've lost our control. And then it's important to evaluate what is within your control. So I suppose outside of your control is external events like the COVID. We can't control that, unfortunately. We can't control the weather, unfortunately. In this country, there's a lot of different weather systems. We can't control other people's behaviors. They are responsible for their own behavior. We're not responsible for their behavior. But within your control is a choice in how you want to respond to external events and stresses. So that's another one. We have a choice in how we respond to these things. And in relation to COVID, within your control is, I can wash my hands, I can stay safe, I can socially distance, I can keep up to date with the HSE health guidelines. So there are some things that are within your control, and that's really, really important to remember, because during these times it feels like things are not in your control. So that's a good one to remember. So the body, that's a really, really, really important one, because the body will always respond to stress. And, the body it really needs time to decompress, because we've had so much stress in the past 6 months, and we've so much uncertainty, from one day to the next, waiting now to hear news about, what's going to happen now in the counties, are we going to be restricted further? So it's been really tough. So we need to really spend a lot of time looking after ourselves during this time. And mindfulness is a really good one. It's something that I use every day. And mindfulness gets us out of that, the brain, the survival brain, where there's a lot of fear, that amygdala. It gets you out of there and it gets you back into the wise mind, and it gets you relaxed. So it's like about focusing on the present moment, just being still. And if you're feeling really anxious someday, just sit down, be still, sit for 5 or 10 minutes, and just focus on your breath. Just focus on your breathing and nothing else. And it is a practice that takes a little bit of patience. But if you do that, if you just sit and just be still and focus on your breath, and when your breath slows down, your mind will slow down too. And that does happen. And when you're trying to slow down, thoughts will come into your mind, and that's completely normal. That's what we do. We do think, and they will come in. But just be very, very gentle and keep bringing yourself back to your breath. And I suppose most importantly, don't be giving your thoughts a big story or something to dwell on, because that's when we start feeling anxious and low. Then when you start giving a big story to your thoughts. So I suppose really when you think of it, we are, as humans, we are like an internal weather system. If you think of the blue sky thinking, days like that actually, when there is blue sky thinking, when we're just feeling blissed out and there's nothing going on in our heads and we're feeling everything's fine in the world. And then you get a day when, the dark clouds come in. And that's normal. That's what it is to be human. The dark clouds will come in. But let them be, and just, you can just sort of have a look at them, and you can use this, the catch check and change them, and you can just, work at focusing on doing something else, even just distraction or whatever. But the key is not to let them get you down too much, because they are only thoughts. So just again about not labeling your thoughts. I mean, I suppose what you can do as well, there's loads of different techniques that you can use in mindfulness. And I remember one of the mindfulness teachers said to me before, what you can do as well to interrupt the flow of the thinking is to label the thinking, and just label it as thinking. So that's something that I found useful, because sometimes it goes on this kind of it goes on some kind of a washing machine effect with the thoughts. You're tumbling around and round and round and round. And then you stop the flow of the washing machine by just switching on the thinking button and just trying to slow it all down. Writing or journaling is also really, really good, because that takes you out of that fear brain and back into the rational brain again. I find that really useful. I do that quite a lot. It really, really helps. If there's anything going on in my life, and if I'm a little bit upset about anything or stressed about anything, I just get the pages out, I write, and it just brings me back into the rational brain again. You're back in here, the wise mind again. And writing positive things down as well at the end of an evening can be really good as well, or even in the morning, just thinking about things you're grateful for, thinking about the things you can do as opposed to the things you can't do. And there's been a lot of studies into the practice of gratitude, and that's something that can be really, really good for our mental health. So I'm just going to take a little sip here. I'm going to do a little bit of self-care. Take a wee bit of sip of water. And now we're on to our second topic, and it's dealing with isolation. I'm just looking at those lovely cuddly bears there. They don't look too dangerous, actually. I don't know why they don't, but they don't. They're just, maybe they're all together and they feel safe. That's why they don't look so. They look lovely. So no man is an island. That's an old one there. So a sense of belonging. It's really important for our well-being. And we've all grown up as a family, as a community, as we've had groups of friends, groups of colleagues. We've joined clubs and groups, and we all have this innate need to connect with others. And it's programmed into our genetic makeup, really. It is part of who we are. So we get a positive response when we connect with others. There's a neurochemical, oxytocin, triggers a bliss response in the brain whenever we engage in social behavior. And, as I said before, the brain is an incredible survival machine, even in terms of keeping us safe, even with the fear response. It's there for a reason. We do need it. We do need to keep safe. And one of our most successful survival techniques is the safety in numbers, the pack animals, the humans being together. And when we belong to a group, this bliss response makes us feel safe and warm and content. So this lady here, you could check her out. She does a lot of stuff around that, Margie Netchcam. So reducing isolation during COVID, staying connected is really important, with family and friends, at least once a day if you can. And when you think of like 40 years ago, we didn't have internet, we didn't have email, we didn't have Zoom, we had to wait on snail mail. It would take a week to get a letter, or maybe not as long if you're in Donegal, but everything was so slow. And now you can get 3 or 4 texts a day. It's really great that we have that. And just meeting up, keeping socially distanced outdoors if possible. Even, getting out of the house and getting into the car, taking a drive or walking to the local town or village and, watching the world go by. Again, just that connection where you see people, you feel like you're in the flow with people. It's really important. So trying to get out of the house at least once a day. I had a day this week where I didn't get out at all. I just had one of those days I just didn't get out at all. And the following day I got out and I just felt so blissed out. I felt really happy. I was only going to Tesco, with the mask on and the whole lot. But, that feeling that you were connected, that you were maybe saying hello to the lady who was at the cashier and saying hello to whoever was around and about, going for a coffee outside. Just that contact, that sort of the eye contact with people, it's so important. So going for a walk outside as well, the fresh air is so good. Even if it's a short walk. There's so much online at the moment, so many different hobbies. At the moment I'm doing an art class and I'm finding it really, really good. So that's really, that's a new hobby. So I'm not an artist, but I just find it so relaxing with all the colors and drawing shapes and colors, and it's just really relaxing. Yoga is brilliant as well. Yoga is so good for stress because it brings you back into the body again and out of that sort of fear brain that we get into. So it brings us back into the body. So there's so much you can do for mood really that helps with mood. Doing something creative is really good for that. Baking, cooking, knitting, crocheting, gardening, painting outside, woodwork. There's so much really that you can do. And the act of giving, that's really, really important. And that actually reduces isolation as well. So voluntary work, they've done a lot of studies on that, and it has so many benefits. Reduces isolation and loneliness. The social aspect of it improves mental and physical health. And making a difference, a sense of purpose. It's that feel-good factor, sometimes you can't get paid for that. I've done voluntary work before, and you just get such a buzz from it. It's such a lovely feeling. You're giving, but you're getting a lot back as well. And then I'm just going to take another sip now while I just go to the next topic. So our third topic is self-care, body and mind. So I suppose a really important thing for mental health is a daily routine, because sometimes we can maybe end up getting into a routine that's not healthy. We might end up sort of sleeping too long during the day, and if we're already feeling low, it's not good for our mental health. We just need to get up and we need to get up and get dressed and get started. Minimizing time watching phone apps and news updates, constant information on COVID, that keeps us kind of anxious and hypervigilant and stressed. And I actually had something a few weeks ago where I was watching, I had this Twitter app on my phone that I put on, and I was watching the Guardian newspaper on the Twitter, and it was just there's so much going through that phone, news updates, and it did affect me. I didn't sleep. So I've taken that app off the phone because I'm thinking, right, this is just not good for me. So I just tend to listen to one news bulletin a day, because we need to be informed, but not too much informed that it's affecting our sleep and our anxiety levels. So, and I suppose even food, too much coffee late at night is not good as well. Chocolate, coffee, sugar is not good. It affects our sleep as well. And if you can, get up at the same time every day and go to bed at the same time, and especially during the winter, because we're getting into the dark time of the year, it's really, really important that you try and get a routine at this time of the year. Try and get up early as you can. Try and just get that routine. A good night's sleep is so important for our well-being. And unwinding, I mean, when you think about what we do with children to get them wind down before bedtime, we rarely do it for ourselves. We just keep going, we doing the ironing, doing the housework. And what that does is it keeps the cortisol levels really high, because we're not relaxing. So we need to be sitting very, very still, read a book, not Sky News late at night, because there's so much that's globally going on in the world that's not easy to watch that late at night. So unwinding, it could be crocheting, it could just be, relaxing, reading a book or whatever. And again, about the food is really important, the diet is really important, and it's not about really not having treats. I love having treats. I love having my chocolate cake. But it's about really minding how much sugar you eat, because sugar actually depletes vitamin B from the body, too much of it. And that the vitamin B is really important for our nervous system and our mental health. And it causes inflammation in the body. That's a fact, it does. It raises the inflammation. So, it's not about completely cutting out all these things, but just be mindful of them. And just remembering, if you have any physical illnesses, the GP is there. And sometimes we've been neglecting that as well, because we think, oh, I can't go to the GP because of COVID is more important than anything else. But just mind yourself as well. And if you have any illnesses, you need to go to your GP. They're there to help. So exercising regularly, that's really what you call, the green prescription. Like the GPs were actually, they were really sort of promoting this a good few years ago. This was called the green prescription, and 30 minutes, 5 days a week. They did studies on that as well, and they found that was the equivalent of a low dose of an antidepressant pill. So it really raises the serotonin levels. It's really, really good. 30 minutes, 5 days a week. And if it's too much, start in small steps. You can break it up. You can do twice a day for 15 minutes. Just start small. And if you can do that 5 days a week for 30 minutes, that's really good. Setting an achievable goal every day as well can be really good for your well-being. And it doesn't have to be anything big. It can just be something really small, like cleaning out a drawer or doing something that you've been putting off for a while. And it just gives you a great sense of achievement. This time of the year, I don't know what it is about this time of the year, but it always hits me every year in September. I start getting rid of a few things that I need to get rid of in the house. I used to be a bit of a hoarder, but I'm really looking at that now and getting rid of a lot of stuff. And it's really good. It's really good to do that, because you just feel lighter, you know, and there's more space in around your environment as well. So sense of humor, I mean, you can't underestimate that. That's so important, a sense of humor. You know, sometimes there's things on the radio sometimes where they do these kind of skits on the politicians, and I find them really funny to listen to. Now, I can't remember the name of the man that does them. Maybe John or Eamon might remember who they're called, but Rosenstock, or anyway, one of them. There's a few of them. They're on the Late Late Show sometimes, but they're just really funny. But even watching a funny video, or you know, just trying to get a little bit of humor, because that really kind of helps us to kind of get a lighter perspective on our lives, because if there is a bit of worry around, and it's good just to kind of get that bit of humor. So we're going to do a body scan relaxation now. If that's okay, I'm going to stop sharing the screen here. And if you all just want to just get really relaxed, and I'm going to guide you through this. And it'll take about 10 minutes. Okay. So as you get comfortable, as you get into a comfortable position, just sit back there now and just feel your back against the back of the chair or wherever you're sitting. Allowing yourself to begin to sink comfortably into the surface below you. You may begin to allow your eyes gradually to close. And from there, turn your attention to your breath. Just notice your breath. And breathing in, allowing the breath gradually to go all the way down to your belly. And then breathing out. And again, breathing in. And out. Noticing the natural rhythm of your breathing. Now allowing your attention to focus on your feet. Starting with your toes, notice whatever sensations are there. Warmth, coolness, whatever's there. Simply feel it. Using your mind's eye, imagine that as you breathe in, the breath goes all the way down into your toes. Bringing with it new, refreshing air. And now noticing the sensations elsewhere in the feet. Not judging or thinking about what you're feeling, but simply becoming aware of the experience of your feet as you allow yourself to be fully supported by the surface below you. Next, focus on your lower legs and knees. These muscles and joints do a lot of work for us. but often we don't give them the attention they deserve. So now breathe down into the knees, calves, and ankles, noticing whatever sensations appear. See if you can simply stay with the sensations. Breathing in new fresh air, and as you exhale, releasing tension and stress and allowing the muscles to relax and soften. Now move your attention to the muscles, bones, and joints of the thighs, buttocks, and hips. Breathing down into the upper legs, noticing whatever sensations you experience. It may be warmth, coolness, a heaviness, or lightness. You may become aware of the contact with the surface beneath you, or perhaps the pulsing of your blood. Whatever's there. What matters is that you are taking time to learn to relax. Deeper and deeper as you breathe in and out. Move your attention now to your back and chest, feeling the breath fill the abdomen and chest. Noticing whatever sensations are there. Not judging or thinking, but simply observing what's right here, right now. Allowing the fresh air to nourish the muscles, bones, and joints as you breathe in. And then exhaling any tension and stress. Now focus on the neck, shoulders, arms, and hands. Inhaling down through the neck and shoulders, all the way down to the fingertips. Not trying too hard to relax, but simply becoming aware of your experience of these parts of your body in the present moment. Turning now to your face and head, notice the sensations beginning at the back of your head, up along your scalp, and down into your forehead. Then become aware of the sensations in and around your eyes, and down into your cheeks and jaw. Continue to allow your muscles to release and soften as you breathe in nourishing fresh air, and allow tension and stress to leave as you breathe out. As you drink in fresh air, allow it to spread throughout your body, the soles of your feet, all the way up through the top of your head. And then exhale any remaining stress and tension. And now take a few moments to enjoy the stillness as you breathe in and out. Awake, relaxed, and still. And now, as the body scan comes to a close, coming back into the room, bringing with you whatever sensations of relaxation, comfort, peace, whatever's there. Knowing that you can repeat the exercise at any appropriate time and place of your choosing. And when you're ready, open your eyes. Okay, hope you enjoyed that little session.
Well done, Maria. Thank you for that. I think we're all very chilled after that. Thanks for that. And if I take anything away from it, it'll be a more appreciation of breathing, which I think we take for granted. And I'll try and visit the wise owl part of my brain more often. I don't know if there's any questions or anything anybody wants to say, or you can unmute yourselves if you have something to ask Maria, or if you have anything to say. If you're all too chilled to have anything to say, that's fine too.
Yeah, Maria, that was really, really nice. Yeah, I don't really want to go back to work this afternoon. No. Thank you very much. That was lovely.
Oh, thank you, John. It was a pleasure, really, a really pleasure to be with you all today. And I hope you can take something from the presentation. And stay safe, everyone, and take good care of yourselves. Okay.
Brilliant. No, you're getting lots of nice thank yous and no questions. I think everybody's just zenned out. And
that's great. Oh yeah, Mario Rosenstock. Yeah, great. Yeah.
One question.
Okay, I just have one there. I just saw one. Yeah. How do you stop fidgeting when meditating? Yeah, that's a hard one, isn't it? Yeah. I suppose just, you know, yeah, I mean, fidgeting is it's okay. I mean, it's something that, you know, if you're just starting off with meditation, it just takes a while to get the whole system relaxed. But stick with it, and you'll probably find in time that you will fidget less, because, you know, it's just a process, really, and you will get there. But it's normal to feel like, you know, a little bit restless when you're meditating, when you're starting off. I hope that answers your question. Recommended, any other recommended reading for introducing cognitive behavioral therapy? Yeah, there's a lot of I'm thinking of a book that would be easy to read. I think there's a book called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff based on CBT. I think that one, I'm trying to think of the name. I'll try and see if I can, you know, I think it's called Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, CBT.
Well, thank you very much. And I think, as I said, I think we're all chilled after that. And I think everybody's just zenned out. And
Very good, Maria. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm thinking? Just even if you were to Google that one, the lady who asked about the CBT, if you even Google's great, you know, for even finding out things around, you know, some kind of an introduction to CBT. Mind Over Mood actually is a good book as well. Podesky is the name. It's a workbook as well. It's an excellent one for CBT. So Mind Over Mood by Podesky is excellent. That's one a simple one to use with worksheets on it as well.
Very good, Maria. I think unless anybody has any other questions, we'll draw to a close. Thank you very much. That's been really, really relaxing. It's been great. No, thank you. And to everybody, we will send out the recording so you can repeat the session, and particularly the last 10 minutes. It's something I think we'll be switching on in here maybe at lunchtime more often. So no, Maria, thank you very much, and we'll be back to everybody. So yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.